Ever since Jacob DeGrom announced that he would opt out of his contract and test free agency, there has been a narrative built about whether or not he wanted to remain with the Mets. On the show today, I want to really dive into the reality of free agency and why so many outlets that are covering the Mets right now are completely missing the ball with DeGrom and also Aaron Judge when it comes to their free agency this offseason.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter, @FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Now, I wanted to hop on the show today and just discuss something that's been bothering me for some time. And you know, it comes really from two main sources. It comes from SNY and the New York Post, and some of these guys that have been covering the game of baseball for the longest of times. And I do respect their longevity in the game. I do respect the pressures of their careers, and I get what they try to do. But I'm looking at those reporters like Andy Martino and John Heyman who have continued time and again to spin this narrative about Jacob DeGrom and what he wants to do in free agency without any real concrete reporting or sourcing that indicates anything. And if those guys would want to attack me for this, by all means, fair game. Find me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan and come at me. I don't care. To me, I watched a report from Andy Martino on, you know what, shout out on their Mets podcast. I don't care. The Mets pod, SNY's podcast. And his report was essentially, I don't know anything. That's what it came down to. It was, the Mets don't know, DeGrom doesn't know, we don't know, it's a waiting game. They're in the same spot that they are with Aaron Judge. Let's peel the curtain back a bit here. SNY has Andy Martino as their MLB insider. He's going on their podcast, which has, you know, podcasts and videos on YouTube. Look, I'm putting Aaron Judge and Jacob DeGrom in the title of my podcast, and I know that you guys might click on it a little more. I'm not, you know, completely absent from some criticism here, and I am maybe throwing some stones in a glass house. But at the same time, I'm not reporting anything. And what's frustrating to me is they are building this narrative based on what will drive interest. And it drives interest in their stories, in their articles, in their videos, in their podcasts, and making you tune in to Mets Hot Stove at night. To say that DeGrom is in this place where he doesn't know, and to build up a form of tension between ball club and player, when all I have seen that has been concrete reporting is those out there who have been close to Jacob DeGrom saying that he wants to stay with the team. I've seen the team illustrate that they are interested in retaining him. I've seen Billy Epler say they've maintained an open line of communication. But here's the funny thing that SNY leaves out, that the New York Post leaves out, that anyone that's telling you that there's a rift or that there's any confusion about Jacob DeGrom or Aaron Judge's free agency are leaving out. They want to be free agents. It's that simple, and it's irritating that they have to be villainized for it. If I'm in my career for however long, you know, and you know, I'll give a direct example. I've been working for Just Baseball for, you know, about a year now. You know, as we move into 2023, my payment structure will not be the same as it was in 2022. As I have been working, you know, for a new baseball company, and there's a lot that comes with that, right? But as the company grows, my role will grow, and you would hope that I would be compensated more. That's just common sense career building, okay? Anybody in any facet of their lives, they would hope that if they put in effort, if they performed exceedingly well at their job and outperform what they're getting paid, they would be able to be compensated for what they are producing. So Jacob DeGrom has a contract that's significantly deferred on money, where he has not been paid market value, where I don't have the direct numbers in front of me, but I believe I saw something yesterday that basically broke down how the deferrals work and essentially made it known that DeGrom's average annual value of what he's been bringing in has been just north of $20 million for a guy that's won 2 Cy Youngs, and when he's on the mound, he's the best pitcher in baseball. Aaron Judge wanted a contract extension, did not get one that was suitable to him, and went out and put up an 11.4 F4 season. Was leaps and bounds the best player in baseball. These two guys have reached a point in their careers where they can literally show the track record and say, hey, I've been the best pitcher in baseball. DeGrom could say since 2018. Aaron Judge could say he's been the best hitter in baseball since 2019. I believe he leads the league in F4. And so if you get to that point in your careers and your incumbent teams did not give you a suitable contract to play out the remainder of your career in that uniform, it is natural to want to explore free agency when that opportunity is presented to you. Jacob DeGrom is in his mid-30s. This is his last chance to take a bite at the free agent apple. That does not mean that he's leaving. That does not mean that he hates the Mets. That does not mean that he hates Mets fans. He does not have to be made out to be a villain for exploring his right to see what's out there. Because I'll tell you what, it's a business. And if the New York Mets are only offering him a 2-year deal, it's their fault that he signed somewhere else, not DeGrom's. We have no idea what's going on behind closed doors, but also there could have been a very open line of communication between Billy Epler, Jacob DeGrom, and his agent. Jake, we would love to have you back. DeGrom, I'd love to be back. We would like to keep constant communication with you and try to find a deal that's suitable for both sides. Perfect. Love to hear it. I'm at the stage in my career where I'm exercising this opt-out. I'd like to speak with some other teams to see what's out there, but I'm very interested in coming back to the Mets. And then it gets reported that the Mets don't know where DeGrom is. They don't know what his decision is going to be. Yeah, because he hasn't made it yet. Because he hasn't talked to other teams. And because free agency hasn't opened. It's just very frustrating to me because I feel like these narratives can run rampant and they can become a self-fulfilling prophecy here. And we could see it in some ways color DeGrom's feelings about this organization and what it means to be a Met because of what these people who are just driving clicks are putting out there. And that's not fair to him, and it's not fair to Aaron Judge with the Yankees. And I want to continue on this in just a minute here. But first, I do want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by SimpliSafe. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen SimpliSafe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters. I know because I have SimpliSafe in my home. It makes me feel a sense of comfort that not only when I'm home, I'm protected, but also when I leave my home, I'm protected. My property is protected because it's powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. With their 24/7 professional monitoring, SimpliSafe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or fire responders in emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. SimpliSafe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and outside of your home, and smarter ways to detect motion that only alerts you, if a threat is real, and even have hazard sensors that can instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. Customize the perfect system for your home today in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/LockedOnMLB to save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system. All you have to do is sign up for an interactive monitoring plan, and you'll also get your first month for free. Visit simplisafe.com/LockedOnMLB to learn more. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. All right, so diving back into this discussion here with Jacob DeGrom, Aaron Judge, their respective free agencies. As I said, I just get really frustrated with the need to push any narrative here. Here's what's happening. Jacob DeGrom had an opt-out in his contract. His contract was significantly team-friendly. He has been underpaid ever since he signed that contract. And let's actually take a step back. Jacob DeGrom comes up, exceeds all expectations, wins Rookie of the Year, goes out in the 2015 season, is underpaid. If you remember, I can't remember if it was actually I think it was after 2015. 2015, after the Rookie Year, he goes out, has a great year, helps lead the Mets to the World Series. And then I believe it was after that season where he refused to play under the contract that he was given to by the Mets, but there's really nothing you could do based on the way Major League Baseball is set up. So we basically had to concede and pitch on a substandard contract. And then eventually, he started to hit arbitration, gets his new contract extension. This is after his agent in 2018, in the middle of a Cy Young campaign, bangs his fist on the table and says either sign him or trade him. Those discussions between DeGrom's agent and the team not only did not result in the contract he wanted, but it resulted in his agent taking a job to become his new boss as the general manager of the New York Mets. And then, with all of the personal information of what Jacob DeGrom wanted, he gets a contract across the finish line. You could say he wasn't involved in those discussions. That is complete BS, okay? I don't care if you think that he said he recused himself from the situation. Let's get real here. Brodie Van Wagenen was able to have conversations with Jeff Wilpon and with whoever else was in the negotiating room on that contract. Gets him to sign an extraordinarily team-friendly contract that he outperformed, won a Cy Young again in 2019, was elite in 2020, and was amazing in the first half of 2021 before he got hurt. And you can say that he hasn't pitched up to the contract over the last, whatever it is, 16 months, ever since he went down in last June or July. I guess it was July. But look, the numbers still speak for themselves when he's healthy. And what he did prior to that was exceeding value. And, look, this year the Mets won a single playoff game. It was because of Jacob DeGrom. So I'm holding all of that. And I'm just saying, look, he has got to a point where he deserves to exercise that opt-out. He wants to hit free agency. Not because he wants to leave, because he wants to get paid proper market value. And there's no way to know what your market value is unless you go into the market. It's Econ 101, and I actually dropped out of Econ 101 twice and became a journalism major because I didn't think that business ended up being for me. I don't pretend to know business, but I know common sense. And that's what this is to me. It's common sense. It's the same reason why we can have these exact same discussions with Brandon Nimmo to a lesser extent. Now, people aren't begrudging him as much because he's not as big of a high-profile player, and because, quite frankly, you don't know if you want Brandon Nimmo depending on the contract he's going to get. If he's going to get a 7-year deal, and I guess the same thing can be said about DeGrom, where people are thinking that the price tag's going to get out of hand, but I always find it funny that fans always side team over player. In this instance, I don't see anything wrong in Brandon Nimmo, Jacob DeGrom, or Aaron Judge for that matter, exercising and enjoying their right to free agency. When Jacob DeGrom was a kid in Florida and he was dreaming about being in the big leagues one day, he probably thought he'd be a shortstop. Maybe he didn't know what jersey he was going to wear. I don't think he was thinking I'd be a Met for life. And since he's been a Met, he has often preached that he would like to be a Met for life. That's what he has reiterated time and again. But maybe he watched the playoffs and he thought, well, maybe it'd be cool to be an Astro. We don't know what he's thinking. And he doesn't know what's out there. But the only way to know what's out there, know what your market value is, and have the presence of mind to go into a negotiation and to not be insulted by what the Mets are offering you, is to understand what everyone else is offering you. So if there's not another team in baseball that's offering Jacob DeGrom a 5-year contract because of his injury history, how can he be upset with the New York Mets for offering him a 4-year deal? And that's how you eventually can get to a resolution where these two sides agree to a contract. But time and again, I just continue to see this narrative pushed. That Jacob DeGrom wants to sign with the Braves. That Jacob DeGrom wants to sign with the Rangers. Yet when the reporters get in front of a camera, they don't say, I've been hearing that DeGrom's interested in the Braves. What they say is, I've been hearing that I don't know anything about what DeGrom's thinking. Because he's not telling anybody anything. And the only thing that has maybe come out of his camp is an interest in returning to the Mets. But we don't say that. We don't think that. We don't believe he's coming back. Look, he could leave. And you know why he would leave? because the contract offers are better from another team. That's why he would leave. I think if the contract offers are the same, Jacob DeGrom returns to the New York Mets. Why do I say that? Because that's basing that opinion off of only what I've heard Jacob DeGrom actually say. He doesn't speak often, but when he has spoken, time and again, he said that he wants to be a Met. And yet, you'd think it was the exact opposite if you follow the coverage of his free agency. And when I was watching that Andy Martino report on a podcast yesterday on YouTube, I came away with a fire in my belly to think, why are we feeding into this narrative and believing this and considering it a report? To say that Jacob DeGrom and Aaron Judge are just super mysterious guys and their franchises have no idea what they're thinking, you are villainizing those players. You are putting a fan base and you're putting them against the starved players that they've grown to love because you are making it seem like they don't love being part of that franchise and they are looking elsewhere. And could they be looking elsewhere? Absolutely. But these two guys in particular, Judge and DeGrom, have never said anything other than they wanted to be Mets or Yankees. They wanted to be with their teams. But they have an option to test free agency, and because the deal was never consummated prior to that, they will explore their free agency. And why we can't take them at face value is beyond me. But I also want to explain why DeGrom isn't signing a contract right now the way Edwin Diaz did, and what that first contract offer could be for the Mets. Because I can tell you, based on just connecting the dots, where things could stand right now, and that'll maybe give you a better idea of why he'd want to go on the market a little bit and see what else is out there. We'll get to that in just a minute. But first, another word from our sponsors. So what would the Mets' first contract offer to Jacob DeGrom be? To me, it's simple. Very, very simple. Because a groundwork was laid around this time last year when Max Scherzer was a free agent, and the Mets signed him to a 3-year, $130 million deal. Even if you think Scherzer's a better pitcher, the numbers of recent years would definitely not suggest that. Their performance in the playoffs would not suggest that. And DeGrom's ties to this franchise would not suggest that Max Scherzer should be getting paid more than Jacob DeGrom. Now, if it's over more years, the average annual value could come down. If you sign DeGrom to a 5-year contract, maybe you don't have to pay him $43.3 million a season. But if you pay him over 3 years, you got to meet that number. So if I had to guess where things stand right now, if there was a contract offered, and it could simply have been a conversation between both sides that said, hey, we're going to have an open dialogue. You want to explore your free agency? Great. We want to have a conversation with you for sure before you sign elsewhere, because we would like to be able to have the opportunity to match whatever contract you get out there. And we also have this offer for you on the table. There's a chance to say, look, we're going to negotiate here. Or they would maybe not say quite like that, but they would say, look, we want you to be in a Mets uniform. You saw what Scherzer got. We would like to give you a 3-year, $140 million deal where the $10 million of it is structured as a signing bonus. Maybe in 15. Steve Cohen has the money to give fat signing bonuses to players up front to incentivize them to put that signature on the dotted line. Now, what you would say there is, look, if they were to do 140 over 3, you are taking the precedent that Scherzer set and you're increasing it just a little bit for Jacob DeGrom, and you're getting him on the 3-year deal. Now, you get beyond that, right? If it's a 4-year contract, I still don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that we're talking $45 million a year. So that'd be like 4 for 180. But to get to that number, to get that 4th year, DeGrom might have to shop the market. So let's just say the Mets' first offer is 3 for 140. Now DeGrom hits free agency and he has a 6-year offer from the Rangers. All of a sudden, maybe the Mets meet in the middle. Maybe it's a 4-year deal with a 5th year option with a buyout. Maybe it is a 5-year contract straight up. There's a lot of things that can happen. But until you know the market for Jacob DeGrom, the Mets, while wanting to present him with a competitive offer that keeps him engaged because they would love to have him back, they also don't want to overspend and outpay the market. And I think with Edwin Diaz's situation, you had the perfect combination of player, team, no real questions about production because of how good he has been since 2020, how great he was this year, and his durability throughout his entire career, that you were able to look at the precedent set, which was $18 million per as an AAV from Liam Hendricks and $86 million from Aroldis Chapman over a 5-year deal. And you could say 5 years, $18 million per, $12 million signing bonus, big bang boom, $102 million, first 9-figure deal for a closer. Shake hands, we got a deal. This contract is a lot more complicated because there could be layer structure due to innings pitched, with certain incentives, with options that vest based on health, with potential buyouts and player options, and ways that Jacob DeGrom can continue to get paid as the best pitcher in the sport while having the security of a long-term deal. And it's going to take some time for a contract like that to be hammered out, and it's not going to happen in 5 days before free agency starts. So sit back, relax, and wait and see what happens. And if we find out later that Jacob DeGrom actually had no interest in coming back to the Mets, and he signs a contract that's less than what the Mets would offer with another team, he always had his sights set on team X, Y, or Z, if that's the Braves, if that's the Rangers, if that's the Dodgers, who knows. Then you can get mad at Jacob DeGrom. But to be frustrated on DeGrom now, based on the reporting that's out there, it's just unfair to the player, especially a player that has done nothing but pour his heart and soul out to be a great Met and to try to lead this team to something special. And everything around him has been an absolute dumpster fire throughout 95% of his career. So I'd love to see him get to enjoy a winning ball club for the next 3 to 5 years as a Met. But that's his decision to make, and he has earned the right to make it. That's going to be all, though, for today's edition of Locked On Mets. On the show tomorrow, there'll be plenty of news, the deadline for the options. So we'll know about Carrasco, we'll know about Givens. We may begin to know about the qualifying offers that are extended, all of that and more. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, @FinkelsteinRyan. Follow the show, @Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today, hosted by Peter Bukowski. Locked On Sports Today is where you want to go to stay up to date with everything going on in the sports world, with breaking news, game reactions, the take of the day. You can follow Locked On Sports Today wherever you get podcasts, on the Odyssey app, YouTube. It is there for you, so make that your second listen today.